There is a specific kind of silence that haunts a bedroom at 3 in the morning. It isn't the peaceful silence of rest. It is the heavy, suffocating silence of a man lying awake, staring at the ceiling, acutely aware of the woman sleeping beside him and the devastating distance that has grown between them. Not a distance of miles, but of inches. It is the distance created by shame. For the last few years, I have felt my body slowly shutting down, like a machine that has been left out in the rain too long. The gears rusting, the engine seizing, the vital fluids drying up. I am a man over 50, and until recently, I felt like my life was effectively over. It wasn't just the lethargy or the brain fog that made it hard to focus on my work. It was something far more visceral, something that strikes at the very core of male identity. I was losing my manhood. It started subtly. I noticed my hands and feet were always cold. Even in the middle of summer, I'd have to wear socks to bed because my extremities felt like blocks of ice. I ignored it, thinking it was just a part of getting older. But the body is a connected system. The cold hands were just the warning light on the dashboard. The real failure was happening elsewhere. The morning salute, that automatic biological proof of life that every man takes for granted in his 20s and 30s, had vanished. Weeks turned into months without a single sign of life. I felt like a hollow shell. My wife never said anything. She was too kind for that, but I could feel the shift. The gentle touch on my shoulder that used to be an invitation had turned into a sympathetic pat, the kind you give a sick relative. That pity was worse than anger. It made me feel like I was already dead. I knew the options available to me, and I hated them. I sat in my doctor's office, and he looked at me over his glasses and reached for his prescription pad to write a script for the blue pill. I looked at him and said no. I refused. I knew the mechanics of those drugs. They don't fix the problem, they mask it. They force high-pressure blood through clogged, stiff arteries that aren't ready for it. It's like trying to force water through a rusted pipe by turning up the fire hydrant pressure. Eventually, the pipe bursts. I had read the stories of men my age dropping dead from heart attacks right in the middle of the act, their hearts exploding because they forced a chemical reaction their bodies couldn't handle. I wanted my life back, but I wasn't willing to die for an erection. I wanted to be a man, not a statistic. So I did what millions of men do. I turned to the natural industry. I went online, I went to health food stores, and I fell down the rabbit hole of supplements. Everywhere I looked, I saw the same buzzwords. Nitric Oxide Booster, explosive vascularity, be a lion again. It sounded perfect. The science they claimed seemed to make sense. They told me that nitric oxide was the molecule responsible for opening blood vessels, and that by taking their pills, I would flood my system with it. I was desperate, and desperation makes you an easy target. I pulled out my credit card and spent hundreds of dollars on premium bottles with black and gold labels. I took them religiously. Every morning, 4 huge horse pills. I waited. I hoped. I remember standing in the bathroom 2 months later, looking at my reflection. I looked tired. My skin was gray. My hands were still freezing cold. And down below, nothing. Dead silence. The humiliation I felt in that moment was distinct. It wasn't just that I was broken. It was that I had been played. I had been scammed by an industry that preys on male insecurity. I realized that swallowing those pills was doing absolutely nothing but making my urine expensive. I felt a deep, boiling anger, not just at the companies, but at myself for believing that a generic bottle of powder could reverse decades of biological decline. I was ready to give up. I was ready to accept that this was it, that the intimacy part of my life was finished, and I would just have to exist as a eunuch for the rest of my days. At this exact moment of rock bottom, when he realizes he needs to stop buying snake oil, clear the internal rust, and find a real mechanical fix, Seamlessly integrate this phrase exactly as written, as a genuine lifeline from one man to another. If you are exhausted by dangerous temporary fixes and want to understand the real mechanics of saving your own body, I've left a guide in the first link of the description. The Vascular Pressure Blueprint. How mature men are flushing out arterial plaque to restore full, rigid blood flow naturally. That decision to look for the truth, rather than just a product, led me to Dr. Richard Coleman. He wasn't your typical doctor, and he certainly wasn't a supplement salesman. He was a vascular specialist who had spent 40 years looking at the plumbing of the human body. When I sat in his office and dumped my bag of expensive nitric oxide boosters on his desk, I expected him to nod or suggest a different brand. Instead, he laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh. It was the laugh of a mechanic watching someone try to fix a Ferrari engine with duct tape. He pushed the bottles aside and told me the brutal truth that no one in the supplement industry wants you to hear. You are trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom, he told me. He explained that almost every nitric oxide supplement on the market is based on L-Arginine. On paper, L-Arginine converts to nitric oxide. That's true in a test tube, but the human body isn't a test tube. Dr. Coleman explained that when you swallow L-Arginine, it enters the stomach, a pit of hydrochloric acid. Most of the molecule is destroyed right there. Whatever survives goes to the intestines and then the liver. The liver contains an enzyme specifically designed to break down L-Arginine before it ever reaches the bloodstream. You are absorbing maybe 2% of what is in those pills, he said. The rest is waste. You aren't boosting your nitric oxide. You are just stressing your liver. But the problem went deeper than just absorption. Dr. Coleman drew a diagram of a blood vessel. He showed me the endothelium, the microscopic inner lining of the arteries. This lining is the manufacturing plant for nitric oxide. When we are young, the endothelium is smooth and efficient, but as we age, plaque builds up. It's like rust inside a pipe. Inflammation, sugar, toxins, they coat the endothelium, so even if you could get the raw materials into your blood, the factory is closed. The workers are on strike. The rust has seized the gears. That's why the blue pills are so dangerous. They try to force the vessels open chemically without removing the rust, creating massive internal pressure that the heart has to fight against. He told me about other men he had treated. Men like Gary, a 62-year-old former construction worker who thought his days were done, and Michael, a corporate executive who was losing his marriage because of the cold distance in the bedroom. They had all been where I was, taking the fake boosters, feeling the shame. The solution, Dr. Coleman explained, wasn't to force the body. It was to give the body a different pathway. He introduced me to a specific bioavailable nutrient stack, not a generic supplement, but a precise combination of compounds designed to bypass the liver entirely. The key, he revealed, was the kidneys. The kidneys are the back door to the bloodstream. There is a specific conversion process, turning citrulline into arginine inside the body post-digestion that triggers a massive, sustained explosion of nitric oxide. It doesn't happen in the stomach, it happens right where it's needed. This surge doesn't just inflate the vessels, it acts as a solvent. Dr. Coleman called it a biological pipe cleaner. This specific nutrient stack, when taken in the right ratios, begins to scrub the arterial walls. It gently dissolves the plaque, the rust that has choked the endothelium. It rehabilitates the inner lining so that your body remembers how to produce its own nitric oxide again. I was skeptical. Who wouldn't be? But I listened. I followed his protocol. It wasn't a magic pill that worked in an hour. It was a biological reconstruction. For the first week, I felt nothing, but Dr. Coleman had warned me, we are cleaning the pipes first. By the second week, something shifted. I woke up, and for the first time in years, my feet weren't cold. There was a pleasant humming warmth in my toes and fingers. It was the feeling of blood actually reaching the periphery of my body. The brain fog began to lift. I felt sharper, more present. The oxygen was finally getting to my brain. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was about 4 weeks into the protocol. I woke up before my alarm, not from stress, but from a sensation I hadn't felt in a decade. It was heavy. It was undeniable. The morning salute had returned, but not weak or half-hearted. It was rigid, throbbing with the kind of pressurized force I remembered from my 20s. It was the hydraulics working perfectly. The rust was gone. The valves were open. The engine was humming. I lay there for a moment, tears actually stinging my eyes, not out of sadness, but out of sheer relief. I wasn't broken. I just had a plumbing issue, and I had finally fixed it. I reached over and touched my wife. She stirred, and when she realized what was happening, the look in her eyes wasn't pity anymore. It was shock, followed immediately by a genuine electric desire that we hadn't shared in years. We didn't need words. The physical distance that had plagued us was erased in moments. That morning, I didn't just get my erection back, I got my confidence back. I walked into work with my head high. I felt like a man who was in control of his own biology, not a victim of it. This experience taught me a valuable lesson about the modern world. There are industries designed to keep us broken, to sell us temporary fixes that keep us dependent and sick. The fake supplement industry is just as bad as Big Pharma. They sell hope in a bottle, knowing full well the chemistry doesn't work. They want you to think that aging means decline, that you have to accept the cold hands, the soft body, the brain fog. They are lying. The body is a miraculous machine, but it needs the right fuel. It needs you to understand the mechanics, not just swallow the marketing. I'm sharing this story because I know there are thousands of men lying awake in that heavy 3 a.m. silence right now. I know you are looking at the ceiling, wondering if this is the end of the road for you. I know you have tried the pills and felt the sting of failure. I am here to tell you that you are not broken. You are just blocked. Your endothelium is suffocating under layers of plaque, and your nitric oxide levels are tanking because you're feeding your body the wrong materials. You don't need a miracle. You need a mechanic. You need to flush the system and restart the engine the way nature intended. We have to stop being passive about our health. We have to stop letting advertisers dictate what we put in our bodies. The transformation I went through, from a cold, rusted, shut-down man to someone with the vitality and virility of a 30-year-old, is not a genetic anomaly. It is biological cause and effect. Gary experienced it, Michael experienced it, and you can experience it too. But you have to be willing to ignore the flashy labels at the supplement store and look at the actual biochemistry. You have the right to fix the root cause and reclaim your dignity. For those ready to skip the trial and error, the exact step-by-step method is in the first link of the description. The Vascular Pressure Blueprint. How mature men are flushing out arterial plaque to restore full, rigid blood flow naturally. Don't let the rust win. Don't let the silence in the bedroom become permanent. You have the power to scrub the pipes, open the floodgates, and feel that surge of warm, oxygenated, pressurized blood reaching every corner of your body again. It's time to stop buying the lies and start building the pressure. Take action today, because every day you wait is another day the rust settles deeper. Join me in this journey of reclamation. Subscribe to the channel, because we are going to keep digging into the truth about men's health, exposing the scams, and sharing the protocols that actually work. We are in this together. Let's get to work.